Hey guys, it's Nao here. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to get started with part 2 on our series on how number progresses through the minor arcana. Don't forget, for these videos, it can be really helpful if you take the cards that I'm talking about out of your deck, so that way you can connect with the imagery in your deck while I'm talking about the different numbers. So in our last video, we wrapped up Ace 2 and 3, the conceptual level. At the conceptual level, something began its independent life away from the great source consciousness. It differentiated itself enough that it can say, I am this, not that, and engage in comparison. And then it actualized itself a little bit further and came up with a plan and was able to see things in a more three-dimensional perspective. At this stage, things are still kind of intangible. There's not a lot of form, there's not a lot of structure, but at least there's a beginning. This video is going to cover the second cycle of 3, the actualized level. In the actualized level, this thing will become fully manifested and then will be adjusted again based off of the experiences it accrues on its journey. So now we move on to 4. At the 3 stage, we were planning. We were coming up with an idea for further development. And at the 4 stage is when we actually take that plan and manifest the thing fully within time and space. So it's taking it, plucking it out of the ether, and manifesting it into a physical form. This is why 4s are often associated with stability and foundation and structure. This gives a sense of solidity, and it's our first experience of the idea of permanence. At 3ness, we saw reality as a plane, and at this level, at the level of 4, we're seeing it as a solid. We're able to touch it and experience it with our 5 senses fully. Since this is the first time our idea has been fully realized within the time-space that we exist in, we really like it this way. We're very much into it. So there can be a stubbornness that comes along with the 4s that's resistance to change, to doing anything differently. We just created a thing. We took it from its conceptual level and brought it into actualization, and we really like it. We're really proud of our new little accomplishment. The imagery of the 4 cards shows this solidity and this sense of permanence and fixture. We see restfulness, we see conservatism, we see meditativeness, but all that stability is about to get thrown right out the dang window. At the 5 stage, we come up against change. That fundamental constant that no matter what we do is always going to be with us. Father Time comes in, looks at our nice solid little creation that we have going on here, and says, well, what happens if I play with it? That generates confusion, upheaval, a shift starts to happen. The thing that we manifested at the 4 level is now coming up against time. It's coming up against change. It's getting reaction. It's getting feedback from the world around it. At the 5 stage, you are forced to realize that your creation does not exist in a vacuum. There's lots of external factors at play that you have zero control over. And it shows the faults in your creation, which is not always a comfortable thing to experience. Adjustment needs to happen in order to survive this period of change. The struggle comes in when you think that you can surmount and surpass the external forces that are bigger than you. And really what they end up doing is just grinding you down if you resist them. So adaptability is the great lesson of the 5. In the imagery of the cards, we see evidence of this struggle. We see grief, we see loss, we see unchecked ambition, which more on that in another video as to why that is. It's saying that things like austerity, conflict, loss, and ambition need to be checked as you progress through time. That's what the 5 level is all about. Time, change, things that lack permanence, and the external factors that you don't have any say over. But thank goodness we progress on to 6. So now we know that change happens, and that adapting to that is what's going to help us progress further along. So we develop a pattern to adapt to the changing of time as we move through the cycles of the calendar. And that's what the 6 is all about. It is about creating cycles of predictability. You've weathered the storm that came through at the 5, and now you've got it figured out. Okay, so at this time of the year, I can expect this external factor to approach me, so I'm going to be doing this as a result. Think of how our ancestors would have practiced and kind of come up with ways to deal with the changing of the seasons. That's a really simple cycle that we're all aware of, that we're all subject to. So all we had to do was to plan ahead for it. So that way, even though there are still great big acts of God and what have you, we can still move through spring, summer, fall, and winter with a certain level of predictability. This is when I plant, this is when I reap, this is when I harvest, this is when I hibernate, right? This is where things get predictable. This is where things get comfortable. And we can see that in the imagery of the card. Charity, childhood, triumph, transition. These are the themes that we see in the cards at the 6th level. Okay guys, that's it for today's video on how number progresses in the minor arcana. This was part 2 of our series, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so that way you are ready for when the next videos roll out, because it's going to be fun to take you guys on the journey through Numberland that we are in. I love being with all of you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.